Hey everybody at vibesworkshop.com. Coach Al back with you for another movement or exercise that I think is really valuable for everybody to do, but particularly mallet players. If you remember in the first couple of videos that I shared, we talked about wrist controlled articular rotations and then some progressive angular isometric loading for the wrist to really develop improved control of whatever level of passive flexibility you have in the wrist, and also to improve the passive flexibility in the not only the wrist but the arm and up to the shoulder. I'm going to shift gears a little bit today, and in this video I'm going to describe a wall slide. This is a movement or an exercise that I give to every athlete I work with, and it's particularly valuable for anyone that spends a certain amount of time, as we do on mallet instruments, in flexion. That is to say, where our shoulders are rolled forward, where we may have a little bit of a forward head posture, and when we're even leaning forward. And as you're thinking to yourself, I'm sure, this is really the position that I'm in when I'm playing the mallet instrument. So the wall slide has a bunch of different benefits to it. It helps to improve thoracic spine mobility. It helps to develop improved core stability. And most importantly, it helps rebalance the front and back of our bodies. And specifically, obviously, the shoulders, entire shoulder girdle, helping to improve stability and strength there. Now, in this exercise, I'm going to briefly describe the position of your pelvis and what you should be in. When we look at the human spine, we know that there's a shape to it. And of course, every person on the planet has a slightly different shape to their spine. But by and large, there should be a little bit of a curve through this low back or lumbar spine. And then above it, another curve in the opposite direction. And of course, at the top of the spine, there's an additional curve. This is referred to as our cervical spine. And what we want to try to do is come into a neutral low back position. It's the best way to describe it. So if I were to think of my pelvis like a bowl, I would want to fill that bowl with water. And in theory, I'd want to make sure no water is going to spill out of the bowl. Now, if I look at and change pelvic position, I can tilt this way, which is posteriorly, and then I can tilt the other way, which is anteriorly. And I want to find the happy medium between the two. I'm going to ask Terry, my girlfriend, to step over, and I'm just going to briefly give you a look at this area and what we're talking about. So here's the lumbar spine or the low back. This is an area that tends to take a lot of a beating through our daily life and obviously while we're playing as well. This is our thoracic spine. Now we want this portion of our spine to move. We want this portion of our spine to be stable and to move less. So in this exercise, we're going to focus on this neutral low back position. That is to say, we want to keep this still, and in order for us to move through this exercise correctly, we'll have this portion of our spine move. So, good, thanks Terry. Now I'm going to have you spin around and assume a position on the wall. Now I am going to share with all of you the basic instructional video that I share with my athletes on how to perform the wall slide, but I figured I'd go ahead and shoot this additional video and give you some tips on how you can really execute this. So you want your feet to be about shoulder width apart. Go ahead and rest here. No reason for you to be in that position right now anyway. You want your feet to be about shoulder width apart, and you want to be standing about 6 inches or so from a blank wall or whatever space you can find that you can do this exercise. We happen to be in a corner in one of our spare bedrooms because this is a nice blank wall. So your feet about 6 inches or so from the wall, and I'm going to have Terry just go ahead and lean back against the wall. And she wants to go ahead and lean back and pull the shoulders back. And I'm going to have her push her head back onto the wall. And then I'm going to have her do a little bit of a chin tuck, exactly like that. So pulling the head back over the spine. So the big thing to be aware of here is you can't see, but what I'm doing is I'm placing my hand in her in that space right behind her low back. And right now it's fairly large, and you may be able to have seen how she was really changing the position of her pelvis to reduce that space. So the rule of thumb when doing this exercise is you want, on average, about as much space as you need to be able to place your hand back there. Now, some of you, to be in this position against the wall, especially if you're tight through your chest and the muscles in the anterior of your body, and there isn't good balance, you're going to find that there's going to be a big arch in your low back. So just getting into position against the wall and reducing this space is going to require a little bit of engagement from your core. So basically have that feeling around your belly button as though someone was going to poke you or punch you. You're going to brace just a little bit, and that's going to reduce this space in your low back, okay? And that, for many of you, is going to be a difficult position to get into. So you want to just spend some time there first and foremost. If you're able to do that okay, then the next step to the wall slide is to bring your arms up and put yourself in sort of what's often referred to as a kind of angel position. So she's basically perpendicular to her trunk with her upper arms, and the elbows are at about 90 degrees. And then I'm going to ask Terry to go ahead and press her arms against the wall. She's not going to be able to stay here for very long because this is challenging. As soon as she puts her arms up, that curve increases. And as Terry would tell you, this is a challenging exercise, especially for you, right? Yeah, definitely. So really important just to get into this position and press those arms against the wall and try to maintain a neutral low back position. Keep your core engaged. That in and of itself is a difficult position for many to get into. And when you want to spend maybe 20 or 30 seconds up to a minute, quite a few times a day in this wall slide position before you even attempt to move. And you want to try to get your hands flat to the wall. Terry's unable to do that, but your goal is to try to get your hands flat. I can't either, but I've had a number of shoulder injuries. That's tough, very tough. So multiple times a day, what we're doing in this position is strengthening and stabilizing our low back, our upper back and shoulders while we maintain a neutral low back position, okay, and keep our core engaged. And that's going to help really rebalance and establish better posture and sort of undo some of the changes which can happen over time when playing the mallet instrument. Now, the next progression to the wall slide is where we start to move into a squatting movement. Now, the key with the squat is that we need to maintain that neutral low back position. As we move into a squat, if we can maintain neutral, then we're going to get that thoracic spine to move a little bit more. Any of you that have access to a foam roller or anything of that nature, go ahead and spin around, Tara. And I'm happy to post a video for this, but it's a good idea just to take that foam roller, lie on it, and just move up and down through this thoracic spine and do a little bit of self-mobilization through this area. So in the wall slide, we want this to remain still and neutral, and we want this to start to move a little bit. I'll go ahead and demo this, Tara. Thank you. So I'll come into this position about 6 inches from the wall, get up, and again, engage here, and come into that position, pressing hard against the wall. Come on over, Tara. So place your hand right into my low back, and if you have someone at home that can help you with this, stick your hand right in there. So you want to feel pressure on your hand, and I need to maintain that pressure as I start to squat. So I'm pressing my arms into the wall. I have to imagine my hands are nailed right to the wall. I don't want to move my hands. I want to bend my elbows as I start to squat down. She's going to follow me with her hand, maintaining that space.
Yep.
All right, and then back up. Excellent. So that was a single repetition. Challenging to do. The harder it is to do, the more you need it. The easier it is to do, the less you need it. you will find that this portion of your spine, this thoracic or mid region of your spine, can get cranky. Again, it tends to stiffen, and as a result, we often get too much motion from the low back. You know, the way the human body is if it needs motion from somewhere, it's going to get it. And if the areas that are not moving, that should be, are not moving, then it's going to borrow that motion from some other part of the body. Hence what often happens with the spine. So the wall slide, a really good daily, day in, day out, especially after practicing, a great exercise to do. Start with 30 seconds or so in that position on the wall. If you can get into some squatting, try to do 1 or 2 reps an hour. That'd be great target. And maybe up to 10 or 15 over the course of a few minutes after practicing. All right, hope this helps. If you have any questions, fire away.